So we'll go to item 4, Texas Association of School Boards, TASB, pay maintenance recommendations. Mr. Cesar Vela, Ms. Veronica Cardenas, and Ms. Luz Cadena.
Good afternoon. I'm Veronica Cardenas, Executive Director of Human Resources. And we have been working with the Texas Association of School Boards, TASB, for the annual pay maintenance review of our salaries, of our compensation pay plan. And we are prepared to do a presentation of this year's recommendations. And here joining us is Ms. Luz Cadena, who is representing TASB, and will be conducting that review. Ms.
Okay,
Luz?
thank you. Ms. Cadena?
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, Madam President, board members, and college president. Thank you for having me here this afternoon to present this overview of the pay maintenance review that we just recently completed. So I am going to share my screen. I believe that I can do that and walk through the presentation. So let me just. Okay, so I don't have the ability to share my screen. The host would need to enable it.
Yes, it's enabled.
It's enabled now.
Enabled.
Do this, and then okay, so you should be able to see the presentation. I have this correct here. So, again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to provide you this information. I am going to just slightly change position here so that you don't have all these lines on my cross and things. So we're going to start briefly with the process, talk a little bit about the process overall. So we started the review with the collection of the pay data that the administration HR gathered, pulled together to send to us. And keep in mind that any cost models that we have in this presentation is based on that snapshot of time that we received the data. And so we, in addition to collecting the data, we also discussed concerns, objectives for the pay maintenance so that we could prioritize any kind of adjustments that we needed to or improvements that we needed to make. We then gathered the market data. We're going to talk about the set of peer colleges that we used for the market comparison. And then we did the analysis of matching your college jobs to our survey jobs, and then being able to do the analysis and present that market position to you tonight. We also analyzed not only the pay position, but also where you may have jobs that may be at risk of not being paid appropriately. And we also identified priorities for improvement in your system as well. We then adjusted your pay structures. We call it realignment, and we connected them back to the market or used those market benchmarks as anchor points. And adjusted employee pay and created the cost model that we're going to share with you tonight at the end of the presentation here. So, I want to just talk big picture as far as pay system objectives, because when a pay system is strategically designed and it's well managed, it supports the organization's HR goals for recruiting quality employees, having those competitive starting rates, having good salary placement processes, paying those individuals based on their experience as they're placed into the system as new hires, being able to pay for the job value, meaning that the jobs that we review are based on the level of skill, effort, and responsibility, and not necessarily the incumbent and what the incumbent possesses, but what is the role of the job and what are the job responsibilities, so that we're not underpaying or overpaying for that job as we place it within the pay structure. Being able to retain quality employees by providing pay increases that mirror what your peers are looking at providing, and then making adjustments that may be necessary to keep pace with inflation and the market movement. And lastly, of course, retaining controlling costs, but staying within your resource limits and ensuring that those funds are being spent wisely and that your pay system is continually monitored to ensure that the college is not paying too much or too little for those jobs. Briefly, I'm gonna talk about market pay strategy. You have a market-based pay system. And in this type of pay system, the alignment to the market pay for jobs is critical. So the midpoint values for the pay structures are intentionally set, or they're connected or aligned to the market value for those benchmark jobs that we will be looking at. We also align it to district goals. We want to make sure that as we align the structures, that it is market aligned, so that your structures and your pay ranges are competitive within those peers that you compete with for this talent. We also set those pay range minimums and maximums. Once we've set that midpoint, which is that target rate of pay based on the market, and those minimums are set so that you are competitive at the starting salaries within your peer group. There is a maximum value for all jobs, and so there is that maximum rate of pay that we set. And in this market-based pay system and pay strategy, the goal is to have employees move towards that target rate of pay or near that target rate of pay over time based on their experience and their level of skill. And so in this graph, as we can see, the midpoint is set at 100% of the market rate for this one pay range. And the intent here is over time to have that employee pay be within that 10% of market, 90 to 110%. However, you may have some employees that are placed low in the range, or some that are placed high in the range. And that may be appropriate if the incumbents are fairly new to the job, or if you're placing somebody in a job that's, it's a very critical job, hard to fill, well, you're going to have to be a little bit more competitive in pay. But if you have someone that's experienced and they're being paid low and down in the 85% of market, then you're not paying appropriate for that job. That pay is below market. And this is the analysis, this is the market, and of course, coming back to this market-based pay system. And this system as well, we adjust the ranges annually or regularly here to make sure that those midpoints remain connected to your market over time. This is the set of peers that we have been using. You'll see that there are 11. It includes 2 area school districts. The set of peers that we have include the colleges. So we have 9 colleges and 2 local area school districts. For faculty pay comparison, so we only use the college market peers. For exempt and non-exempt, so these are your administrative professionals, your classified employees. We use not only the college peer group market data, but we also use the market from the 2 school districts within your area that you would be competing with for these other positions that also are found within these 2 entities. And then we also purchase 2 third-party salary surveys, and we use the data in combination with our school district data for positions that we know are commonly found outside of educational entities and that you're also competing with. So these are other employers in your area for jobs such as technology, maintenance type positions, some accounting positions as well. The 2 colleges that did not participate in our salary survey, we were able to get their faculty schedules and include them in the market comparison for that group. As I mentioned, the 2 third-party salary surveys that we purchased, one is the Economic Research Institute and the other one is Comp Analyst. And these are those surveys that we use in combination with our school district survey for those positions that either we don't survey or that are also found in other sectors. Let's look at the market position for the most common degree schedule that is analyzed. This is the master's degree, and the blue line illustrates the market median value for a master's degree within your peer group. The orange line is your master's degree hiring schedule and how it compares to that market median, and the median being that value of the peer colleges that we just briefly reviewed. So you can see that you are slightly below that separation is the gap where you fall below. So you're less competitive at the starting salary, and you really narrow that gap at the middle part of your structure. And then at the top end, you have you lag, but not as much as you do at the beginning of your hiring schedule. What this looks like as far as values, we can see on this next slide where the starting salary here is 4% below market value. That's a little over $2,000, $2,205 that your master's degree salary is below that market median amount. Then you improve to 2% below at 98% of market, which is just a little over $1,000 below the market median value at that 5-year mark. At 10 years, you're pretty much almost at 100% of market with just $257 below that market median value. And then at that 15-year mark and the 20-year mark, you drop back to 2% below market and just a little over $1,000 below the market median value. And so because the master's degree schedule is the most common and the one with the most faculty, this is the one that we have illustrated in our presentation for the analysis. We also reviewed the pay positions or market position for the other pay groups. So this includes the administrator professional group and then your classified. We break that administrator professional into the 2 categories: administrator positions There's 19 college positions that we were able to match to our salary survey benchmarks. And pay for this group is at 92% of market or 8% below market. You can see that the midpoint comparison, this is looking at your current midpoints and how those midpoints for these 19 positions that we have matched to market, how those midpoint values compared to the market. Remember, we talked about this being a market-based pay system, and so it's important and critical that the midpoints are connected to or remain connected to those market values. And in this case, you can see that the midpoint values overall for this group, 19 jobs, are connected to market at 100%. For the professional positions, so these are going to be accountants, technology positions, non-director level type jobs that have a professional role within the college. There's 25 that we were able to match to our survey jobs. And this group overall is at 97% of market or 3% below. The structures are still pretty much connected to what these market values are at 100% of market. So if there's any adjustments that we're making to the structures for these two groups, they are going to be very strategic in the pay grades or pay ranges where the overall market will drive or indicate the adjustment needed for those, but there's not big changes in those pay structures. Then we looked at your classified, and we also divide this into two groups. Your clerical paraprofessional, we have 13 positions in this group that we match to our survey jobs. And this group overall, you can see that they're 6% below market. There was a big shift in pay for many of the hourly positions the past couple of years, where the drive to get to that $15 an hour mark was really strong. It has since then settled some, and we don't have as much a push to hit that $15 an hour mark, but you're still having to compete with other employers who have made improvements in those starting rates of pay. The pay structure midpoints, so you can see that the structure for your clerical paraprofessional needs some adjustment. The market did move much more for these classified positions, with those midpoints being at 96% or 4% below on average, right, for that group. The starting rates of pay are slightly below at 1% below market, and so some improvement would also be made to the ranges to improve those starting rates of pay. And as I mentioned, 13 jobs were matched in this group to our survey jobs. Then for your maintenance and operations, this is the group that continues to be the least competitive overall in the market position, with pay being at 90% or 10% below on average. The midpoints are 7% below for this group as well. And so there's more adjustments needed for these positions. We saw market improvements in pay for many of the maintenance and skilled trades type positions, custodial, groundskeepers, those type of positions where the employers made improvements in pay, and we're seeing it as we're looking at this market comparison. For this group, we were able to match 11 of the college jobs to our survey jobs. Talk a little bit about the recommendations. And so, as I've mentioned, we did make some improvements to the pay ranges, which also not only improves the midpoint values as we reconnect those midpoint values to the market, but we also make improvements to those starting rates of pay. And one of them being the classified, as I mentioned, we wanted to make sure that you remain competitive within the peer group with that starting rate of pay. Starting rate of pay is very critical for hourly employees. That is the one rate that they look at when they are considering taking a position or going somewhere else for another position. And that is, what is the starting rate of pay for my job? Currently, your starting rate of pay for classified is $11.50 an hour, and the proposed starting rate is $12.15. This is about a 5.6% adjustment to that starting rate of pay for the group. And then the pay ranges for the other pay groups were adjusted slightly, as well as the faculty pay, which we're going to be looking at. Pay structures were realigned to market, as I've mentioned. And then the faculty schedule was adjusted to reflect the 3% general pay increase that was applied. The 3% for faculty equates to $1,930 increase, and this would be for those on the master's schedule. So the master's starting salary was also improved to $52,000 starting salary, and we'll be able to take a look at the values for the other faculty schedules in the next slide. We also made some additional adjustments on that faculty schedule to really improve the market position down towards at the bottom of that schedule, so they would be more competitive and you would be equitably competitive across those 5-year intervals that we survey when we conduct our survey and gather the market information for faculty. As I mentioned, we'll have the salary schedules for the other degree levels, but the pay increases for the other faculty are based on a weighted factor that is applied based on the master's degree increase. So, for example, your master's degree faculty will get $1,930. Your bachelor's will get a weighted factor of that 1930. Your doctorate will get a weighted factor above that 1930. And then for your continuing ed and associates, it would be a factor of that 1930 that would be below that. And you can see this, the next slide. But before I move there, what I wanted to illustrate is the proposed 3% model, which is your master's degree schedule here. We started out with the market comparison, which is the orange line where you are right now on your master's faculty schedule, and the market median being that blue line. So these are the two market lines that we saw in the graph early on in the presentation. And we can see where the proposed faculty schedule with the 3% general pay increase would align based on the current market position. So the dotted line, the dotted green line here, reflects that 3% master's faculty schedule that we have proposed here. So for the other degree categories, this actually shows not only the master's, which we've already talked about, that has the $52,000 starting salary, but you can see the other degree levels that are built based on the weighted factor utilizing the master's degree, which has been set at 100% of market. And so you can see the values for your continuing ed, the associates, the certificate, the bachelor's, and the doctorate. For your continuing ed, with this 3% Faculty would get $1,602 in this degree category. For the associates, it would be 1,834. For the bachelor's, it would be 1,872. The master's, we've already mentioned at $1,930. And then your doctor would get 2,181. That's that 3%. Within. This only extends to 15 years, and that's only for illustration purposes, so that we can be able to see the values more clearly. We also modeled the 3% for the other pay groups that goes to administrative professional and your classified employees. The 3% pay increase calculation is based on the median master's salary within your peer group. So we take that value and multiply it by 3%. That median master's salary is $64,233 in your peer group. For your non-faculty, so these are your admin professional and your classified, the pay increase is calculated based on the adjusted pay range midpoints, so 3% off of the pay range midpoint that the employee's position falls under. We also are recommending that you provide additional adjustments to address some of the market differences for positions that may be paid considerably below market, and also to maintain internal equity. We recommend that if the general pay increase is not enough to ensure that an employee is a continuing employee is paid at least 1% above the range minimum, then we provide that additional adjustment so that no one is paid less than 1%. Apologies. Who is a continuing employee. We also provide strategic adjustments, and these are an additional 1% midpoint increase. This may be allergies or difficult. And this would be for the administrative professional staff who are paid below 90% of market, even after the pay increase. And not only the market, but below the proposed midpoint. We also provided additional adjustments for those that are paid considerably below market, and those would be employees that are paid more than 80% of market or 20% below market. The placement scales that we applied ensure that we split the pay for your classified individuals through the range based on their experience. And so we take the minimum and the midpoint and divide it into 20 increments. And then we move the pay of the incumbents based on their experience through the range. So that someone with 5 years of experience is making a little bit more than someone with 2 years of experience. And we don't, we alleviate the pay compression that results as we're making improvements to those pay range starting rates of pay. We also recommended reviewing the exempt positions to ensure that you are in compliance with the new FLSA salary threshold requirement. So there's a two-part process to this salary requirement. The July 1st is actually a $43,888 salary threshold. And then the January 1st of 2025 increases considerably to $58,656. And so the recommendation, of course, is to review. And then there are some options which would be to either increase the salaries those that would not meet the new requirements, or reclassify those positions as non-exempt. We know that there has been an injunction or lawsuit filed against the salary threshold. We have not heard anything yet, and so all is moving in the direction that we will need to be in compliance for these two salary thresholds to take effect. The cost for these recommendations that I've just walked through is the general pay increase, which is at 3%. That would be the $992,075. This is a 3.2% increase to your current payroll budget. Does not include any kind of cost for benefits or overtime or other stipends that you may be paying. And it is for the snapshot of the employee count that we started out with in the review. And then those adjustments that I've just covered. So those additional adjustments on the faculty schedule, the adjustments to the minimum starting rates of pay, the placement scale adjustments for the classified. Those the cost there is $222,405 for a total increased cost of $1,214,480, or a 3.9% increase to your current payroll budget. And this concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'd be more than happy to provide you additional information.
Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Cadena.
Thank you very much. You guys have a great evening.
I want the record to show that Erica Benavides Garcia, Cindy Liendo, and JD Delgado have joined our workshop today. Thank you. Did you have anything else, or?
Yes, I just wanted to mention that we provided the board with a copy of a salary comparison of the Laredo area for the different pay plans from the both districts, as well as the Webb County, the city of Laredo as well, and TAMIU. So you'll see the pay plans for Laredo College. These will reflect 23-24. It does not reflect the recent changes. I believe UISD gave an increase, so it will not be reflected in this because this was put together prior to. But I just wanted you all to have an idea of how we compare with the rest of the Laredo area.
Okay. Chair recognizes Mr. Martinez.
I have, in my brief period that you are presented, I've been going over this. It's quite exhaustive, but I also have to tell you this, whoever did it, you all have done an incredible presentation when you actually have made comparisons with the different schools, the college, the university, as well as the city and the county. I compliment you. It's quite exhaustive, but very extensive and very detailed. I'm very, very much impressed with it. I want to compliment you and your staff for the kind of work that it's
Thank you, sir.
that is presented here to the members of the board. Really, you've done an exceptional, incredible job. So I do compliment you and your staff for this very exhaustive work. And it's, well, I'm just very impressed. I have to compliment you on that, man. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Dr. Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Thank you, Madam Chair. I do want to point that this report was requested by Ms. Elizondo at our last board meeting. And it took Ms. Cardenas a great deal of time because she had to do open records request for this information of all the entities. And it took a long time for us to get the information. And so yesterday, finally, we received the last group of, the last piece of information from one of the other entities. And so yesterday they were finalizing the report for you all. And so we hope this is what you wanted and can now make the comparison for what we're actually paying and what we're actually doing.
It is very, very detailed. Your committee, your group, I certainly
It was.
am very much impressed with the incredible job that you have done, because I'm sure it was not easy.
No.
And I'm sure it required a tremendous amount of time in addressing this, particularly more so making the manner in which you actually have made this presentation here very, very detailed. I do congratulate you, and I do compliment you and your staff.
Thank you, sir. It was definitely a team effort, and through the president's office and my office, the team members in my office, we were able to put it together. And yes, it took us a little bit. We had to make several phone calls and had to send out emails and put in requests. But finally, it's here and available to you all for any questions that you may have. And I know it's a lot. And we tried to put it together as best as we could for that you all could understand each and every section of it, because it is a little bit confusing when you don't understand what the number 63 refers to, or because that's the method or the format that is used by the other entity. So if you have any questions, we're here to assist in how we put these together and what they mean. Thank you.
Ms. Elizondo, did you have something to say?
Yes, I just want to say thank you for the information. I appreciate your efforts. Thank
Thank
you.
Anyone else?
I commend them also. I mean, this is a lot of work.
Let me make this observation, if I may, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I would say that we compare, and we actually are comparable to, based on just a brief observation that I've been able to review on this. I think we are very competitive
Yes.
with other public entities, and
Absolutely.
obviously it required not a little time. It's quite an extensive period of time. It's very obvious. I'm very, very much impressed. So
Thank you, sir.
I
Thank
think
Thank
if
you.
I may, Madam Chair, just to add,
Yes.
I think the difficulty here for us is that while some of the titles may not be exact and some of the position requirements from the different entities may not be exact. And so many times what we're forced to do for particular positions is to seek job descriptions and requirements from other entities for the same title and the same position that we're trying to either equalize or fix. And so sometimes different departments want to open certain positions or want to change certain positions. And as we look to what is the market call for, those equalizations have to be done. And that's what's not reflective in some of these reports. What is the going requirement? And the other thing is, what are the benefits? And what are the benefits that we provide, which you all have very, very graciously provided for our employees that not all these other entities provide their employees. And I think that's another critical point to keep in mind.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Mrs. Ramos.
I do agree with Dr. Ramirez. This has been going on for many years. It's nothing new. But we do have to take that into consideration, because what is said on the documents here, like, you can't tell what the person earns based on the years. So this is just like a base information, and if we compare ourselves and it's right because of what we're doing for the market, right? For the community. But we also need to stop and compare ourselves to other colleges that serve the same number of people, that have the same number of employees. That we've discussed that before. I mean, it's nothing new. I'm very proud of the fact that you put it together. I mean, that's amazing because it does take a lot of research and information to get out. But we need to focus on what is it that we're trying to achieve. And we talked about it right now, the different recommendations and stuff. But we need to focus on those that are not up to market value.
Right.
Number one. The others with the benefits, if the whole total package is provided to an employee, it is not reflective on these in this information. And so that's something that we really need to continue to explain to everyone, because while we totally agree that we should be at market value, how much of the extra stuff
That's right.
is going on.
Mhm.
And we just need to make sure that we explain that, because one thing is to say, this is what I earn, because I'm looking at my salary here and it's not the same, like for me under UISD. So it's a blanket number for many people and we're all in different areas.
Right.
So
And
based on the years of experience.
Because of your longevity,
Mhm.
because of
Yes.
so many other things.
Yes, so
If I may add one more thing, Luz, will you go back to the slide where you did the FTE comparison, please?
I think it's number 2 or number
Mhm.
3.
Is that a question to me or?
Yes,
Yeah.
Ms. Cadena, if you'll go back to the FTE page at the beginning. I think something to point
Yeah.
out here, if we were going to compare ourselves to Del Mar College or to, if you look, let's take Del Mar College.
Mhm.
In their student enrollment, they have 9,700 students.
Mhm.
And we're recording 10,227 students.
Mhm.
We have 604 FTEs and they have 1,251 FTEs.
Mhm.
It's double what we have.
That's right.
And we're trying to provide the same kind of services. So people are being taxied, I think, and stretched very thin, and people are meeting the challenge here.
That's right.
And so I think when we look at, are we overstaffed? I think if you look at this comparison, you're going to see that we're not.
No, we're not.
Oh,
No,
No.
not at all. Not at
No.
all.
FTE, full-time teachers equivalent.
No,
like
full-time, it's full-time equivalent.
Full-time
So it's
equivalent.
all
So it's
employees.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
look at that. There's just no comparison.
But I still would like to see other colleges within our area, because we're so far apart from Alamo and Austin, and the number of employees plus the number of students that we have enrolled. You know, there's got to be others that are in the same boat. Now, geographic location is another thing. So we cannot compete with San Antonio. Like, there's no way, because that's a different market. But, you know, in looking at like South Texas College, Texas Southmost College, I'm sorry, 8,000 students, 315, they're half of what we have, and a little bit below the 10,000 mark. I mean, we just need to make sure that we stay within competitive wise within our own demographics, which is the colleges. And then we can go to the demographics of the community, because we are competitive in community. So like we do pay well, and then the benefits also. And I think that we need to continue to showcase those benefits, because one of the benefits, Social Security is one of the benefits. You can't get that at schools. You can't get that at the school district. So, you know, I mean, I know it's difficult with the new employees that are coming in, because maybe they don't realize the value of the Social Security, but those of us that have been in the education system for longer than 20, we know that we value that, and we want to see it, but then a lot of us don't get to see it, you know. So I do appreciate the work that you did and your team, Ms. Cardenas. Thank you very much for giving us more information. I got some information for myself and but it's all available also like in our school district, it's available online. So a lot of us go and check to see what's our midpoint whenever they say you're gonna get something from the midpoint
Mhm.
and we try to figure it out.
So do I.
But yeah, like I do that too. So, and I've learned to do that as the years have gone by, but not everybody knows how to do the calculation. So, I mean, it's something, it's interesting information and I really appreciate the hard work that you all did. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, Ms. Cardenas.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Ms. Cadena.
Thank
Appreciate your help.
you,
Next.
ma'am.
Next item we have is number 6, implementation of new salary thresholds for exempt employees under the Federal Labor Standards Act, FSLA. Ms. Veronica Cardenas.
Yes, thank you. Veronica Cardenas, Executive Director of Human Resources for the record. So our office and the institution has been closely monitoring the U.S. Department of Labor's or the DOL's those changes for the Fair Labor Standards Act. I'm sure you've heard those about the exempt salary thresholds. On April 23rd of 2024, the DOL released those final rules revising the FLSA regulations. So these new regulations outline a phased approach to the implementation. The first phase is effective July 1st of 2024, where it increases the minimum salary threshold to 43,888, and then later to 58,656 on January the 1st. So this new regulation also includes an automatic update to the minimum salary threshold every 3 years, which will begin July 1st of 2027. So there's a lot of changes that are occurring with this new rule. Ms. Cadena did mention just a little bit that there are some lawsuits that are occurring right now to prevent these phases to take effect. So, but the first one that we have right now is a July 1st. Thanks to the fact that we do these pay maintenance reviews every year, we are really not that far off from the 43,888, and I'll share that with you in a little bit. But this rule will impact employers across the country, including Laredo College, and so the changes may impact some of these of our employees who are currently exempt staff. However, the faculty and the non-exempt or hourly staff will not be impacted by this new rule. So the final rule has been released, and we did evaluate the impact of those college positions. Some of the departments and the impacted employees will be notified this week on how the college will address these changes. They were already aware, they just needed our analysis of who was going to be impacted. So the employees who are currently exempt, making less than the new salary threshold of 43,888 may be impacted 3 different ways. So some of the impacted employees will be transitioned from exempt staff or salaried to non-exempt staff, which will mean that they will become eligible for overtime compensation for hours worked over 40 in the work week. Some of the impacted employees may receive a salary adjustment and remain as exempt, and those will continue to be ineligible to earn overtime or comp time pay or comp time. Some of the exempt employees that are making more than the regulation threshold will have to become non-exempt or hourly staff because of their job code. As a whole, will have to move as a non-exempt hourly. And so the impact that we're seeing is that there are 5 employees or positions rather that are impacted by this new rule of 43,888. Because of that position code, 6 others will be impacted, even though they are making more than the 43,888, but because they share that same job code, they're going to have to also be converted. And that's a total of 11 total.
11.
And so that's how we're going to be handling right now those employees. And of course, this has to be effective July the 1st. There will be, and these are actually, just to give you an idea, those are in position pay grade 101, which is the lowest of the pay plan. If you look at your booklet, That's the starting pay grade for exempt staff. 8 that are in pay grade 102 will be receiving a slight increase. It is less than $500 to be able to meet that new threshold effective July the 1st. So those are, in total, we're looking at 19 employees that are being impacted.
Chair recognizes Mrs. Ramos.
11 and 19 is 19 total?
Total, it'll be 11 from pay grade 101.
Paid 11?
That those will be converted to hourly.
Okay,
And in pay grade 102, there are 8 who will remain as exempt, but they will need that less than $500 increase or an adjustment, yes.
or we just switch them? No.
I wouldn't recommend, it's very slight. We're gonna really make that up when we, if the board approves the budget increase that is being recommended. Of course, I know you all have to analyze that and we have to provide you with more information. But it's a very, very slight increase or adjustment that wouldn't really hurt any of the savings that we have, for example, right now.
So 11 of them you're recommending or you're suggesting right now, they go to hourly, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the 8 from the 102 would remain
Exempt, but with a slight adjustment.
with credit. Okay.
So the cost for those 8 will be about $3,500, something like that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one other question. I need to ask. Mayor?
Chair recognizes Mrs. Ramos.
Ms. Cardenas, Ms. Cadena asked, I wrote it down, but then I didn't get a chance to ask her, but maybe you could help me. She mentioned something about an adjustment for those individuals paid below the 80% of market value. How many are we talking about that are paid 80% below?
We're gonna go over them.
I don't have that information in front of me, but usually it's about maybe 10 or so folks. It's not that many.
Okay. But that's
It's in
one,
his presentation.
It's in your presentation. Oh, yeah, it's in his presentation. So
Okay,
we'll take
I
a look
just-
at those.
Okay,
for the next.
we'll get you the number of employees. We have the total dollar amount,
Okay.
but we'll get you the number of employees.
Yeah, because she mentioned that in one of her slides. And she said the recommendation number 3 was a 3% at admin professional classified, increase to 1% above the minimum. And then adjustment for those paid below 80% of market.
That's
Because I'm
correct.
just wondering how many are there?
I'll get you that information right
But-
now. It should be on my computer, or if you have it. You don't, okay, I'll get it right now for
No,
you.
no problem, no
We
worries.
have the
Just-
dollar amount in the budget proposal,
Yes.
Mhm,
but she'll get us the number before we get there.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mrs. Cardenas. Next item we have is number 7, presentation of preliminary draft of the fiscal year 2025 budget. Mr. Cesar Vela.
Let me close this.
Oh, she was there. Yeah, but she has the. You're using Canva, sir.
Yes.
So excited.
We're all learning.
So it's a little bit of finance administration for the record. Tonight we'll give you the presentation on the proposed 2025 budget. This is preliminary numbers that have already been compiled by our office. But before we begin with the presentation, I do want to point out that we did handouts, issued a couple of handouts. One of them is titled the state funding breakdown, and we'll go over that in a bit. And also the other one is just the information that's contained within the presentation. You also have a copy of the presentation for your files. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So tonight we do want to cover a couple of items. The first one would be what are the objectives for the 2025 budget. We'll go over some of the budget highlights. We'll discuss the projected revenues for the next year. We'll go over the funding sources, as well as the initial budget requests that have been submitted by departments. What are some of the proposals that we have for next year? We'll take a look at the budget allocation for next year, as well as tax rate and valuation information. And then finally, we'll go over the next steps that will need to be covered as we prepare to finalize the budget for approval. Any questions on any of the agenda items? No?
Yeah. The only thing that I
Chair recognizes Mr. Martinez.
thank you, Madam Chair, excuse me, I'm sorry. The only thing that I feel that is not listed in here is your reserves. As you well know, tax rate plays a major role when the need is needed for us to float a bond issue. And based on our funding and also what we have on reserve, that does play a major role for us to get a good credit rating from the 3 financial rating agencies. How do we stand there, Mr. Eller?
And actually, we do have some good news.
I'm sorry?
It's in the presentation.
It'll be in the presentation.
Yes, we have, obviously, we'll go over some of the numbers and how those numbers will impact the fund balance. But we also have some good news that we'll share. I guess we have it as an agenda item for the
Okay,
board meeting regarding the credit ratings of the
great.
college.
All right, well, thank you.
So some of the objectives that we're looking at for next year as we prepare the 2025 budget is obviously number one is to provide the adequate funding to maintain the instructional and student service components of our mission as the highest priorities. Also to provide adequate funding for technology upgrades and maintenance of facilities as we look at addressing some of the needs in technology. The 2025 budget has incorporated some of those requests. Also, we are providing funding for the Palomino Pledge. And we'll go over those numbers and talk about it in the next slides. We want to make sure that our operating budget matches our revenues while providing funding for expansion of high demand programs. And last is, as you saw in the earlier presentation, is to optimize salaries and benefits to employ and retain qualified faculty and staff. Some of the highlights that you'll see that are incorporated in the 2025 budget is the preliminary budget includes a $3 million increase in state funding. It also includes a $2.4 million increase in the budget for financial aid for Swift transfer, also known as FAST. There is no tax increase being proposed in the budget, as well as no tuition and fee increases. It includes a 3-cent property tax rate decrease, includes a 3% general pay increase for all eligible employees. We're also incorporating a $100 increase per semester hour equivalent for adjunct and overload pay. And we're, as I mentioned, we're including a $3 million set aside for the Palomino Pledge, as well as a $3 million set aside for new programs. And We will be proposing to acquire some of the equipment that will be needed for 2025 using the 2024 savings. And again, this is to maintain the budget requests low so that we don't have to impact the tax rate. And as Judge mentioned, we do have some savings in the fund balance. We have a healthy fund balance that we can tap into for these one-time purchases that are needed. When we look at the projected revenue, state funding for 24 was at 19 million. The projected 25 funding stands at 22.2 million. That's an increase of 3.1 million. You do have a handout, and again, like I mentioned, that includes the state funding breakdown. All of the funding that you see here coming from the state is performance-based funding. And you'll see there on that one handout, what are the components of that performance items. About 75% of our funding is coming from three items. One is the completion of 15 semester credit hours by our dual students. Also 15 semester credit hour transfers by students. Both of those are, the first one is 25% that composes 25% of our funding. The transfers compose 26% of our funding. And then we have the associate degrees, which compose 24% of the funding. And the high demand certificates compose 9%. Again, you can see there the breakdown, and this is obviously important for us because these are the items that we now know are providing the funding for the institution, and these are the programs or the areas that we need to target as we look at the 2025 operations.
Madam Chair.
Chair recognizes Dr. Ramirez.
These three items many of these items that Mr. Vela is pointing out are as a result of the passage of House Bill 8 in the last legislative session. These monies were not available to us before the passage of House Bill 8. And so we've made a concerted effort within our programming and within our workforce area and in our continuing ed program to make sure that our reporting and our alignment of programs was such so that this kind of funding could actually come to the college. So the recognition goes to the provost office, to the workforce area, to continuing ed, and to the reporting folks in Dr. Arezola's department, who really did all of the effort to make sure that our reports to the state were accurate and that we had the students where they needed to be. So it was really a group effort between all of those entities and enrollment management. And so it was a huge effort, and this is the result of that.
So as we see, the funding increase of 3.1 million for 2025. Again, we're proposing to maintain the tuition and fee rates at the 2024 rate. So we are not projecting right now a tuition and fee increase, just a slight increase of 1,790. Again, the fast funding of 2.4 million. And this is funding that we receive for the students that are enrolled in our dual program, that are classified as, I got the information here. So eligible students that are enrolled in high school and are taking dual classes and qualify for free and reduced lunch are being funded now by the state at $55 per semester credit hour. So that is a total of 2.4 million for the institution. Property taxes, as we mentioned, we are not proposing a tax increase. The 1.2 million that you see there in additional revenue is attributed to new property valuations. Those were the properties that were added to the tax roll last year, are now producing 1.2 million in additional revenue. In the other category, this is where we are doing the set aside for the new programs. As you see, last year we had a reduction of 1.7 million. This year, we've brought that number down to 251,000, and this is again due to the $3 million set aside that we have. So overall, we're looking at an increase in projected revenue of 8.2 million. So this current year, we're at 71.9 million. And we're projecting that our revenue for next year will be 80.1 million. When we look at the funding sources, the breakdown for 2025, 27.69% will be coming from state funding. In 23, that number was 17%. So you can see that the additional funding is now shifting where our funding is coming from. So it's an increase of 10% in 2 years. Tuition and fees, remains the same at 17%. Property taxes represent 55% of our funding. In 2023, that number was closer to 60%. So again, with the reduction on the taxes and the increase in state funding, we're now seeing that drop in the property tax revenue. The initial budget requests, these are the requests that were received by all the departments, came in at 81,342,208. So we did start this process with a shortfall of $1 million. The items that are included in the requests that came in, obviously salaries, an increase of 1.6 million. And this addresses the items that were discussed earlier by Ms. Cadena. This again incorporate all the recommendations that are coming from TASB. In addition to that, it also incorporates the $100 increase for adjunct and overload pay. Benefits, we do have an adjustment of 578,000, and this is again to account for the increase in the Social Security benefit, as well as the TRS contributions that will be impacted for the additional salary expenditures. One good thing is that we did receive a note from ERS that the health insurance premiums will remain the same. So we do not have to do an adjustment to our budget for those line items. Equipment, we do have an increase of 1.1 million for the year that came in as request. A lot of that equipment, it has to do with technology. We have requests to upgrade audiovisual equipment here at the main campus, as well as looking at upgrading some of our computer labs. Supplies, this number includes software requests. So we have approximately about $500,000 in increase in software requests. Student expenses, an increase of 151,000. For allowances, we have an increase of 3.1 million, and you can see there that the breakdown is 3 million for the Palomino pledge. We have made an allocation of 150,000 to begin the facilities master plan for next year. We're in the process of making a recommendation for the firm that will be assisting us with that process. We do have a $300,000 allowance for the uncollectible accounts. And then we have an allocation of 75,000 for contingencies or emergencies. Again, when we look at the budget requests, it is a $9.3 million increase compared to the current budget of 71.9 million.
Madam Chair,
Chair recognizes Mr. Martinez.
what do you mean by the $3 million Palomino pledge? What does that imply?
Chair recognizes Dr. Ramirez.
So the Palomino Pledge is a program that we've been wanting to propose to the budget, to the board. Most colleges and universities across the state have now initiated either a promise or pledge to their students to cover the last dollar on their account, so that the students will no longer have to pay tuition. So if a student receives 80% of their tuition and fees covered by financial aid, the institution will cover the other 20%. So the student will actually not have to pay anything out of pocket. And so we had not been able to do that. Now with the adjustments in the budget, because of this, all this money that we've been able to recover thanks to House Bill 8, this is one of the initiatives that we want to initiate for this fall. And it will actually be on this month's agenda for discussion and explanation to the board for permission to actually begin advertising next month, the Palomino Pledge, so that we can actually use that to recruit new students to come to school with. There are some parameters that would have to be met. We're gonna visit about those tomorrow to decide what those parameters will be so that we can present to the board next week. And there has to be some accountability for it, obviously. But the idea is if you look at other community colleges across the state, almost all of them, I think there are only 2 that don't, but they don't get FAST money and they don't participate in House Bill 8 and they're not part of TAC that don't offer a promise. We're one of the few that don't offer a pledge or promise to its students. We don't offer student loans. We stopped offering student loans here at Laredo College several years ago because of the debt that students couldn't afford to pay back. And that affects our rating.
Yes.
And therefore creates other repercussions in the budget. And so we do offer students the opportunity to get an emergency loan, pardon me. But when their financial aid comes in, we get the money put back into that pool, and then whatever money's left over, they get as a refund. So the Palomino pledges are our promise as a college to the student. They must apply for financial aid, and whatever financial aid doesn't cover, will cover. Did I explain that okay, Mr. Vela?
Yes, ma'am, you did.
Very good.
Thank you.
When we look at the proposed expenditures, we are making one recommendation at this point, and that is, as I mentioned earlier, is to look at equipment, one-time purchases, purchasing or acquiring those items that are needed for next year's operations using the 2024 savings. So when we make that adjustment to the equipment line items, our budget request dropped down to the 808, which would now be in line with the projected revenue. We do have, again, that process that we still need to go through. We'll have the budget committee review the requests. There are a couple of line items that we are focusing on. And if you look at your handout and go through the different, starting on page 3 all the way to page 10, you'll see some highlighted items that the committee will be looking at. And this is again to review some of these requests to make sure that we maintain the budget within the projected revenue so that we do not impact the tax rate that is being proposed.
Chair recognizes Mrs. Ramos.
Mr. Vela,
Yes, ma'am.
on the page entitled projected revenue, your totals are 80,198,808.
Yes, I do apologize.
Is,
It's
That's
$1,000 off. Yes.
so it's, but it is $1,000 off or
No, it should be the 80,199,808.
this one,
Yes.
the projected revenue?
Yes.
Projected revenue.
80. So it's gonna be the same.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
When we look at the allocation of expenditure allocation for the budget, when we look at the salaries for 2025, salaries will be making 51.5% of our budget. When we compare that to 2023, that represented 57.99% back in 23. which was two years ago, when right before the new funding model came. For benefits, for 25, that represents 12.9% of our budget. In 23, that was 14.68 of the budget. And again, these are our two major items when we look at our budget, salaries and benefits. Equipment, we have 8.5% in the budget. And in 23, that was 6%. So again, we do see an increase in that one line item. And this again is the emphasis on us trying to upgrade technology throughout campus. As far as the other expenditures, they're pretty much in line to our last two budgets that we presented. Again, I just wanted to point out that we do now show salaries at 51% compared to 57% back in 23, as well as the benefits also at 12.9 versus 14.8. When we look at the tax rate and valuation information, for 23, the taxable value is 21,274,779,624. Right now projected for 2024, and this is based on preliminary information that has been received from the Webb County Appraisal District. Valuations will go up to 24,906,303,173. That's an increase of 3.6 billion or 17%. And again, these numbers will change. We should be receiving the final certified tax roll at the end of July. So when we apply the projected valuations and calculate the M&O rate for 2024, we're looking at 19.5 cents for maintenance and operations. That's a drop of 2.5 cents or 11.58%. For the debt rate, we're looking at a 4.1 cents or a drop about half a penny, and also an 11.29% decrease. The total tax rate that is being proposed using the preliminary valuation numbers is 23.6 cents, a drop of 3 cents or 11.53%. When we look at or when we apply that tax rate to the average homestead taxable value for 2023, on a property valued at 188,787, the Laredo College tax was $505. For 2024, valuations have gone up. The average homestead taxable value is 205,913. If we apply the proposed tax rate, that would be a tax of $487.63, a $17 drop in the tax.
Madam Chair,
Chair recognizes Dr. Ramirez.
this is exactly what our state legislators intended House Bill 8 to do, was to force the tax rates to go down in all of the taxing districts, so that while the funding mechanisms were changing, and the funding is coming from different entities, the tax rates across the state of Texas are going down, which is what the governor has been proposing for the last, 5 years, 6 years. And so this is exactly what his formula was supposed to do, and we're able to do that.
So the next steps, as we continue to work with the 2025 budget preparation, during the month of July, we are going to have some meetings with the Internal Budget Committee to review some of those requests. Like I mentioned, the certification of the tax roll should be completed by July 25th. Thereafter, on August the 1st, we're proposing to have a meeting with the board, a board meeting to present or the certification of the anticipated collection rate as well as the calculation of the no new revenue tax rate and border approval tax rate. At that meeting, we're also going to ask that the board vote on the proposed tax rate. And this meeting currently is tentatively scheduled for August the 1st. Because we're not proposing a tax rate that will raise taxes, we will not need the public hearing meetings. So essentially, we are going to be proposing the no new revenue tax rate, which will not require any public hearings. What the proposed tax rate does, it will only give us the same amount of tax revenue that we're currently having for next year. The last meeting will be August 22nd, and that is just to have a public hearing meeting on the 2025 proposed budget, as well as a meeting to adopt the 2024 tax rate and 2025 budget. And again, this is subject to change, tentatively scheduled for August 22nd. And that concludes the update on the budget. Any questions on any of the items?
I have questions, but till later.
Any questions?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Vela.
I believe,
Appreciate all the information.
so I believe board members had a question regarding the number of employees that were impacted by some of the adjustments that were gonna be made by
Turn on your mic.
TASB, I'm sorry. So when we're looking at the proposal of the general pay increase and the adjustments that will be needed, under the faculty rank, there's a total of 48 employees that will receive an additional adjustment so that they can be brought up to within the 10% of the market. For the administrative professional, we have 55 employees that will be impacted. And on the classified employees, we have 147 employees that will be impacted or will receive an additional adjustment for the placement scale adjustment. So that'll be 147 classified or non-exempt employees.
Chair recognizes Mrs. Ramos.
Every year we talk about this, but are there any capped employees?
So yes, we do have one employee in the administrative professional
Who's capped?
category.
And faculty.
Just one that's capped?
One, over the max is only one administrative professional, and then we have 18 in the non-exempt category. And we do not have any faculty members that are over the max.
So that has changed because they've retired or they've reached their point?
Yes, we do have some that have retired,
Okay.
but we also have the adjustment of the scale, the midpoint to the maximum, that changes as well.
Mhm.
And so that also impacts it.
Okay,
And so, yes.
thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Vela. Thank you, Mrs. Cardenas. Next item is number 8, next meeting dates. So Saturday, June 22nd, 2024 at 9 a.m. We have our board retreat. Monday, June 24th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. Student Success Committee meeting. Tuesday, June 25th, 2024, 5:30 p.m. Finance and Audit Committee and Building Committee meeting. Thursday, June 27th, 2024 at 6 p.m. We have our regular monthly board meeting.
And Madam Chair,
Chair recognizes Dr. Ramirez.
On Wednesday, June 26, 2024, at 5:30, we'll have Program and Policy Committee meeting. This agenda was posted before we made the decision that we needed a Program and Policy Committee meeting, so that'll be Wednesday, June 26. My apologies.
At 5:30.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any questions? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Oh, no motion, sorry. It says here. Adjourn.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
I do?
Yes.
Oh, so I have a motion by Mrs. Ramos, second by Mrs. Vela. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Besitos.
Bye.
Bye.
I know. I heard that. Oh, they were all.
She's not over.
I'm glad it's early.
She's still here.
Early.